goal today and probably change the way that you're thinking about marketing. So you're going to walk out, and even if you think it's important now, you're going to think it's like way more important. If you think that it is kind of frilly stuff, that it is just chit-chatty, we will certainly eradicate that notion from your brain. Okay, so with that, let me start. And this is, though you guys are here, which means that you've already concluded that marketing is on balance good, not bad. I think it's important that everybody realize that most of the outside world doesn't think that. So that, for example, when you call your parents or your uncles and say, I'm thinking maybe going into marketing, they go, whoa. Have you considered cowboy or coal mining? Or, there are other gainful lines of employment for you to chase. And the reality is, a lot of folks do think about marketing as those things on the left, as people who are conniving in some sort of mischievous, maladroit way to separate people from their money. That's partially true, but that is not the thrust of it, that marketing people are those who call at dinner time representing themselves as market survey people in order to renew your subscription to Business Week, or doing a bunch of, taking you in a retail store, trying to spin you around 7 or 8 times like a halftime gimmick at a basketball game in order to have you walking out of the store with something you didn't know you needed, that you didn't need, and that you paid an extraordinary amount of money for. So marketing over time has largely earned a bad reputation because of some of the stuff that was done to him. When you take Professor Ernst, in I guess Mod 2 is operations, and at least half of you will get him, on day one, I predict to you, he will say, and I quote, "Marketing is bullshit," in his little Latin terminology. Even when I co-taught with the guy, he would do that. and even so, Ernst though becomes the poster child or the personification of the notion that marketing may not be as deep and rigorous as some other areas, like say operations. What you'll absolutely for sure see in spades, and half of this is flippant and half of it isn't, is finance people really do believe, the box at the bottom, that anybody who goes into marketing is maybe cognitively limited, a little slow, doesn't quite qualify for a hotshot career in finance. Understand a couple things. One, they really believe that, and that's okay. That you got to get over it. In business, what I found is that often, your marketing folks, we're not, universally revered by everybody in the organization. And you can stand around licking your wounds and thinking the world should be different. It's the world, and just accept it, as such. And don't allow it to bother you. That you've got to develop a good sense of self-confidence to know that what you're doing is real important, and the work that you're doing specifically matters to a company. So that my view of the world is definitely a big not, that stuff does not hold. That, well, it is the perception, perhaps, among some folks that is not true. All right, now I don't believe this. And again, you should be able to garner from my intonations to this, that I don't do a lot of stuff that is unimportant and uninteresting. The fact that I spent 20-some years, most of which in marketing in one way, shape, or form, either in the consulting or in the line function of marketing, says that somehow along the way that I concluded that it was real important stuff. And to the point, my view of what marketing is all about is first, that it is geared to delivering value, and value of two sorts. Value to potential customers out there by having products that are priced in about the right way that do provide some social good, so that they have an opportunity to buy and use them and makes their life a little better. Value also, importantly, to shareholders of a corporation. And a recurring theme you're going to hear from me is profit is like good, not bad. Marketing folks exist in order to generate profitability for companies, period, end of story. So that an important part of marketing is understanding that ultimately, generating profits and elevating stock prices so a bunch of people can get rich is part of the importance of what marketing is all about. Second, now this may be in part dominated by my experience, and I've been very lucky working for companies where marketing was viewed as pretty important and akin to what strategy is all about. Now, I'll give another example that you may have seen some of these already in some of your courses. Most profs teaching a core course will have a little an introductory chart that shows all the different functions, and one function will be in the middle. It's their function, right? Doing it all. And Ernst does it, and it's really funny when he does. Well, the truth is, marketing is in the middle of all of the other functions. And what I learned, to give a case in point, at General Electric, when I got there, by sheer coincidence, I joined GE on the day that Jack Welch, who most of you probably have heard about, was named CEO. You know, and the stock took off, and a lot of people think it was Welch. I like to believe that there's an alternative theory for all that. Well, Welch, I came from McKinsey, so I was kind of a strategic planning kind of guy, and the position I was hired into was strategic planner of the major appliance business. One of the first things Welch did was take the high-regarded GE strategic planning system and blow it up. I'm thinking, this is not good. What did he do, though? What he did was, philosophically, he declared to the organization that strategy doesn't exist off to the side, that strategy should be embedded in the line management functions, and within the line management functions, that marketing was the most logical place to do strategic planning for each of the businesses. So he declared that marketing would be not just a nice commercial to design the product, but would have a broader role within the corporation, within each of the business units, in order to devise the overall strategy. So that philosophically, what I respond to is the good fortune, working for a guy like that, and a company like that, where marketing was elevated in role and began to embrace all the notions of strategy. Turned out Black & Decker was exactly the same. So no strategic planners hanging around, that the marketing people were expected to develop strategies, not just, quote, marketing strategies, but broader business strategies, that they were the fulcrum or the middle, the pivot point from which everything emanated into the other sorts of functional organizations. Point number 3, I think, about marketing is it really is not a I think, I feel, how do you feel, kumbaya, why don't we all get together, be cool. It is rigorously analytical in its nature, that you'll see in class, in Mark Strat this will happen, and people learn it very quickly. Like you never begin an answer in my class with I think or I feel. Or I will explain, and I'll explain as many times as I have to, what you think and what you feel doesn't matter to me one iota. What I care about is what the data says, what the market says, what your analysis says, so that your answers start with, based on the data and based on the analysis I've done, I have drawn the following conclusion, which I think is important. And there is a very sharp distinction between that and, red's better than blue, or big's better than small. It is trying to, put yourself into, the mindset of the people to whom you're trying to sell, with an understanding that you ain't them. And the only way you can, in fact, do that is by getting to the facts, getting by to the data, and somehow organizing them. A second and related point, there is disagreement among even people on is whether or not marketing is susceptible to frameworking or not. My view of the world is it sure is. That, and I'll tell another story off. I had a guy that worked for me at Black & Decker. Smartest guy, it was a direct report I had in all of my time working in all the places. One day he came into my office, slammed the door, looked at me and said, "You're not smarter than me, but because you were in consulting, you have all those templates in your brain." Got up and left my office. First I say, what the hell is that? And thought about it. And the style and execution may not have been the best. He raised an important point that framed the way that I think about marketing and the way I think about strategy. And it is that, I had the exposure by working with, 20 or 30 companies for my tours of consulting to see different sort of environments, to see different ways to think about problems. And the reality is there are relatively few types of problems, that most of them can be organized around some basic frameworks as a means of just jump-starting the problem solving. And then the task becomes fitting around the template to the specific situation that you have. So does any template explain any situation? Probably not. Do frameworks come close to explaining virtually all? You bet. Do you learn a situation faster? Do you diagnose a problem faster? Do you answer a question faster by trying to apply frameworks? The answer is hell yes. So part of what marketing is, and from a teaching standpoint, these guys know, is that, one of the things I think I've figured out is that if I give you in my analogy, the Christmas tree planted in your brain, the framework, that I can start adding ornaments onto it, and you can remember it a lot easier than if I just throw a whole bunch of stuff at you. So my fundamental belief is that marketing can be articulated through frameworks, that frameworks can be useful in terms of the problem solving you might do or the kind of decision making you do as you get out of here. So all that boils down. None of that says it's easy. That will also make the point that even with my cockiness, that in my days as marketing VP, I would guess that I made right decisions, could have been as much as 52% of the time. Which means that there was like a huge chunk where, based on all the analysis, all the frameworks, what I was involved with as making decisions was probably flat out wrong. That is part of the exhilaration, part of the thrill of marketing, as far as I'm concerned. If somebody has got to hit 1,000, in order to feel good, doesn't like ambiguity, doesn't like nuance, this is probably the wrong place to hang around. It's different than operations, which is relatively straightforward. You figure out how many miles, you figure out how big the truck is, you figure out how much stuff to stick on the truck, you figure out the rates, you figure out the gas, fuel surcharge, and boom, you can answer the problem. You throw it into an electric regression machine and you optimize the thing. Marketing, you get to the very best answer you can, and you go to bed knowing you're not quite sure. And that's kind of cool. Still, by doing all this stuff, by using the frameworks and doing the analysis, at least another analogy I like is it's like the blackjack tables, in Las Vegas and the card counters. Do all card counters win a lot of money? No. But they at least get the odds kind of moving in their favor a little bit. And part of what we try to do is at least get you to work with good odds. Okay, now let's start to really think concept. That's the setup to it. And basic takeaway, it is important. And you don't think about marketing in a very narrow sense of just advertising and sales. It's much broader than that. In the broadest context, it is enveloping your strategic thinking within a corporation with the goal of increasing shareholder value.